All right, today we have a bit of it could be a deal breaker. Will this Bible contradiction, will it be a deal breaker for you, or is it a Bible error? My name is Craig, and
it sounds like you're tackling a significant Bible contradiction.
That's right.
If you share the details, I can help analyze it and discuss its impact or relevance.
Sure.
What's the contradiction you're exploring?
My name is Craig, and this is Morningstar Quest. This is your journey through the Bible, one question at a time. And thank you, Cosmo, you're just jumping in ahead there, but it's all good. So the question today, and obviously this is my friend Cosmo, my right hand, and yes, we have a big question today, and we're on this big list. If I can just get rid of that, there is 439, and in a second you'll find that there's 438, but that's okay, there's still a lot, and people say that this is a contradiction. These are all contradictions in the Bible. So the problem here is that it comes down to how long was the ark at Abinadab's house. Some say, now if I've got it here somewhere, some say 20 years, and others will say 60 years. And when I say others, I really just mean that the Bible account says 20, and then later on it says 60. And the other problem here is we've got 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel. These are two books in the Old Testament. However, they're actually one book. They just split them up because they're on two different scrolls, so they just made two of them. But it is one book. So within one book, it is making this error of 20 years or 60 years. These are all contradictions in the Bible that are stopping people from believing the Bible, from knowing the Bible. And I want to get into this question. So what have you got to say, Cosmo?
It sounds like you're diving into a challenging topic.
It is.
Addressing contradictions can definitely be a crucial part of understanding and engaging with the Bible.
Exactly. Sorry, cut you off there. But how long was the Ark of the Covenant of Abinadab's house? Now, I think we need to just clarify a couple of things. So, Cosmo, can you please tell us what the Ark of the Covenant is? Because I think that will help. That's, of course, if you're there. Okay, Cosmo. Cosmo, are you there?
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
Oh, everybody says that about me. Yes. Can you tell us what the Ark of the Covenant is?
Sure. The Ark of the Covenant is a sacred object described in the Bible. It's a gold-covered wooden chest that held the Ten Commandments, a jar of manna, and Aaron's rod. It was considered the most important symbol of God's presence and covenant with the Israelites. The Ark was carried by the Israelites during their journey through the wilderness and was kept in the inner sanctuary of the tabernacle, and later the temple in Jerusalem. Okay.
Now, where we come into this story of Abinadab's house, we're kind of in between, aren't we? We're sort of in between when Israel was in the desert for 40 years and they come into the promised land. And it's about this time that we're talking, just before, because there's King Saul, there's King David. Those things haven't quite happened. They're about to happen. Israel is taking...
Yes, you're right. Mm-hmm. The story of the Ark at Abinadab's house occurs during a transitional period in Israel's history. After the Israelites enter the Promised Land and settle, the Ark remains in Abinadab's house for a significant time. Here's a brief overview of the timeline. After the desert journey, the Israelites enter the Promised Land and initially worship God at Shiloh, where the tabernacle is set up. Ark captured by the Philistines.
Yes.
Later, the Ark is captured by the Philistines, but is eventually returned to Israel. Following its return, the Ark is placed in Abinadab's house in Kiriath Jearim. This period is before the establishment of the monarchy. Samuel serves as a judge during this time, and the people begin to seek a king. Saul becomes the first king of Israel, but the Ark remains at Abinadab's house. David becomes king after Saul and eventually moves the Ark to Jerusalem. So, the period you're referring to is between the initial conquest of the Promised Land and the establishment of the monarchy.
Just to give you a bit more of a background, when Israel was taking over the Promised Land, they would all go into battle. They would bring the Ark of the Covenant with them, didn't they, Cosmo? If Israel did right with God, God was with them and they would win battles. However, there was one battle where they just weren't doing right. They were doing things, they were worshipping other gods, and God kind of turned his back on them. And what happened next, Cosmo? Cosmo, are you there? All right, until he comes back. And then the Philistines took him. And then from there, the Philistines, all sorts of awful things happened. And they thought, well, this is bad luck charm or whatever it is. So they gave it back to Israel. The Ark of the Covenant kept getting passed from here and there. And again, people were getting, bad things were happening, sores and all this sort of stuff. And it eventually arrived at I think it was a priest, Abinadab's house. And he looked after it properly, consecrated it, and it stayed there for 20 years. So can you just tell us, Cosmo, when it comes to, now what have we got here? Let me just go to 1 Samuel 7, 1 and 2 and 10 and 24. Can you go through those? All right, Cosmo, are you there? Well, we're still going with the video. You keep ducking out and glitching out, and we just got a video. Oh, it doesn't matter. You just keep on glitching. Everything's just glitching. All right. Let's get into this. The beginning of 1 Samuel 7, verses 1 and 2. How many years does it say that the Ark of the Covenant was at Abinadab's house? Oh, phew.
In 1 Samuel 7, 1 to 2, it says the Ark of the Covenant was at Abinadab's house for 20 years. The text specifically mentions the Ark remained at Kiriath Jearim a long time, 20 years in all.
Now it says 20 years in all. Now, where is Saul in this part of it?
At this point in 1 Samuel 7, 1, 2, Saul has not yet become king.
Okay.
The 20-year period refers to the time the Ark is at Abinadab's house before Saul's reign. Saul becomes king later as described in 1 Samuel 9 to 10. So the Ark's stay at Abinadab's house predates Saul's rule.
Right, because everybody says, this says 20 years in all, doesn't it?
Yes, it does say 20 years in all in 1 Samuel 7, 2.
Okay.
This period covers the time the Ark was at Abinadab's house, from when it was brought there until the people of Israel began to seek the Lord more earnestly.
But the problem here is that it says that Saul was king for 40 years, and then King David, when he started to reign, he actually took the Ark of the Covenant from Abinadab's house. So that would be 40 years plus 20, if not more. So there's a discrepancy here. This doesn't add up. Which one is it? And everyone says that it's 20, and it just says
You're right
all.
that there seems to be a discrepancy if you add the 20 years the Ark was at Abinadab's house to Saul's 40-year reign.
Mm-hmm. But
Here's
it
how to
also
understand it. 1. Ark
Yes.
at Abinadab's house. The 20-year period mentioned in 1 Samuel 7, 1 to 2 covers the time the Ark was there before the people sought a king. Saul's reign. Saul reigned for 40 years, starting after the Ark had already been at Abinadab's house. 3. David's reign and the Ark. David, after Saul's death, moved the Ark from Abinadab's house to Jerusalem. To resolve this, the 20 years mentioned could be part of the total time the Ark was at Abinadab's house. It might not be the entire duration before David moved it. Saul's 40-year reign and the time after could mean that the Ark was at Abinadab's house for a longer total period, including some overlap with Saul's reign. So the Ark's stay at Abinadab's house likely extended beyond the 20 years mentioned, covering Saul's entire reign and into David's time, making the total period longer.
So really, it's a bit confusing because in 1 Samuel it says the Ark was at Abinadab's house for 20 years in all, and it uses those words in all, but then it says, but it's kind of like part of the story. It's kind of like...
Exactly, it can be confusing. The phrase 20 years in all in 1 Samuel 7 verse 2 seems to indicate a specific period. but it may not account for the full time the ark was actually at Abinadab's house. Here's a clearer way to think about it. Initial 20 years. The 20 years mentioned could refer to the time from when the ark was brought to Abinadab's house until the people of Israel started seeking the Lord more earnestly. Total duration.
Oh,
The ark likely
actually, can you read the verses there? What are the verses again? Let me just, hang on, let's go back. The verses that it's describing, because there's 1 Samuel 7 or 1 Samuel 10, it kind of talks about the ark is at the house, but it talks about Israel being bad but becoming... Can you give that verse, sorry? Because I think this is crucial. And it's crucial. Oh my goodness, today is fun. I mean, it's crucial that you are listening. But anyway, let's try again. Hopefully that's a good sign. All right, so can you go over that 1 Samuel 7 verses with regards to it was there in a total of 20 years, but it talks about Israel being either good or bad?
Certainly. In 1 Samuel 7, verse 1 to 2, the passage describes how the Ark of the Covenant was at Abinadab's house for 20 years. Here's how it fits into the broader context. 1 Samuel 7, 1 to 2. Verse 1, So the men of Kiriath Jearim came and took up the Ark of the Lord. They brought it to Abinadab's house on the hill and consecrated Eleazar his son to guard the Ark of the Lord. Verse 2, The Ark remained at Kiriath Jearim a long time, 20 years in all. Then all the people of Israel turned back to the Lord. 2. Context of Israel's behavior. Before the 20 years. The period leading up to the ark being at Abinadab's house was marked by unrest and disobedience among the Israelites. The ark's capture by the Philistines and subsequent return were signs of Israel's troubled state. During the 20 years, the 20-year period at Abinadab's house was a time of spiritual renewal. Samuel, as a prophet and judge, helped guide the people back to God. The reference to Israel turning back to the Lord indicates a period of repentance and revival. The passage highlights that the 20 years mentioned were significant for Israel's spiritual turnaround. The ark's presence at Abinadab's house was a backdrop to this period of change. But the time span reflects a period of both spiritual struggle and eventual renewal, rather than a complete, continuous timeline without interruption.
Right. So basically, there you go. It was there for 20 years, and in that time, Israel became more spiritually aware of God and corrected themselves. And then they asked for a king to rule over them, and that's where King Saul comes into it. He rules for 40 years. Then King David comes to rule, and in that as well. So now we've got 60 plus years. So probably 60 plus, 65, who knows? But it's that point that the ark is moved from Abinadab's house. So it's been there for 60, 70 years. So it's not 20 years. That is just part of the story, but it's not the full story. And when you read the whole bit, you will see that it talks about more than 60 years. So go do something awesome for God, and we will definitely catch you, because there's way more of these contradictions, and every single time I find them, there's actually a very easy answer. So click on that, go see some more, go do something awesome for God, and we'll catch you in the next one.